Bases dropped. It's match week, people. It is match week. Match week, match week, match week. I don't think I can express that enough. It is match week, Major League Soccer. We've made it. We've gone through one side and out the other. And it is time to get you ready for anything and everything in the 2026 season. We're going to be doing it all week long. Just to give you an idea. Oh, by the way, hi. Reaction Monday. John here, you there. Thanks for coming in as you always do. Okay. Morning, Alex. Hope the wheels are coming back to full song on your axles. That's always one of the first things that we always think about when you say hi. Okay, here's the deal. This week, it's going to be crazy. So today, kind of same. It's going to be Abe coming up in a bit. We'll talk Atlanta United. There are some reports about some players that we'll get into as well. Expectations, Eastern Conference, we'll get into that with Abe. Got to get into your morning news and stuff from the weekend. Bart's going to visit at 10. We've got to talk about Yanks abroad. We've got to talk about VAR overseas and some calls and one game in particular that I'm sure Bart and the ref union were looking at it and going, come on, y'all. Come on, y'all. I mean. So we'll get into that with Bart. Obviously, we'll get into news and things like that and get you ready for your day. So here's the rundown of the week. Tomorrow, we're going to have the head coach of the U.S. U17 team that has recently qualified for the U17 World Cup in Qatar in November. Alex Aldaz, he's going to join us right off the top. It's going to be the return of KCD. Casey White's going to join us at 10. And this is guests that I know right now. Guests that I know going into the week. So right now, and I've reached out to about another half a dozen folks, and we'll see if we can plug and play. So tomorrow, Alex Aldaz, head coach of the U17s, after winning in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. We're going to talk U.S. U17s tomorrow, right off the top. Casey White's going to join us at 10 o'clock. Wednesday, Jess Charman, who's got the first game of the season, by the way. First game of the season in Major League Soccer goes to Jess. Charlotte at St. Louis City, SC. 2:30, which is really 2:40. So 2:40 Eastern time kick. Jess has the first match of the season. She's going to join us off the top on Wednesday. We'll see if we can catch up with the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler. Like I said, that's what it looks like Wednesday right now. Red Clay Soccer Report, noon hour Wednesday. We're going to catch up with Coach Jeanette from GMC Prep. We're going to catch up with Brian Lawson from Jeff Davis. We're going to catch up with Kelly Bowler from Johns Creek and get a bit of a postmortem and a recap of Creek Cup. That's Wednesday, noon hour. Thursday, big news with Atlanta Amputee Soccer from U.S. Soccer. And so we're going to catch up with them and find out what the great news was. If you didn't get to hear it, then obviously we'll kind of break the story a little bit. But no, there was a fantastic award that was given by U.S. Soccer to Atlanta Amputee. And so we'll catch up with very, very cool news there. That's going to be at 9:30. That's going to be at 9:30 on Thursday. Yes, Thursday. And so that's going to be just if you didn't hear, by the way, we're going to catch up with Katie George, the co-founder. They won the 2025 U.S. Soccer Adapt and Thrive Disability Award, and that celebrates accessibility and inclusion. So Atlanta Amputee Soccer, big news for them. 9:30 Thursday, leading into the Power Hour with Nino and Nico. Friday is the Show of Chaos. Legitimately, the Show of Chaos returns on Friday. Our friend Kirk Reynolds at Major League Soccer and Apple TV, he is canvassing the planet. Canvassing the planet to see who gets to join us from our friends at Apple TV on Friday. We're turning over the show to them. The voices that you're going to hear and the folks that you're going to see all season long, they're going to be dropping in. Obviously, KCD and Jess will be our lead into that. We're going to see who else. Maybe we'll try and track down our friend Kevin Egan, see if he can join and be a part of things. But Kirk is going to, and we can't do this without Kirk, without him at question at all. So our friends from Apple TV are going to be joining us all show long on Friday to let you know about what's on their mind as they head into the season, short of Jess and KCD, obviously. So, like I said, I've handed the reins over to Kirk when it comes to the booking. I don't know what it's going to look like. We went over the timetables last night, and it's like, okay, start at 9:05, kind of end at 11:05. That's a loose construct. We can go long. It doesn't matter. So that is – and Will Pelagic is going to be joining us, the play-by-play voice of Charlotte. He's going to be joining us on tape on Wednesday. So he's a part of it as well. Like I said, I've reached out to about another half dozen folks, and we've got games this week. St. Pius and Brookwood doubleheader is Wednesday night. And Dalton and Johnson, the boys' game from the Castle, that's going to be on Friday night. Mandy Cruz and I will have that one, considering that Jason and Mike are going to be on the road. So that's the week. Mike and Jason heading to Cincinnati on Friday for their 4:55-ish kick. And the guy that's going to be a part of that broadcast on 92. See, I can say this now. Part of the broadcast on 92.9 The Game and the Odyssey app. It's our buddy Abe Gordon. And we'll see how jacked up Abe is about all this stuff. So, are you jacked up, sir? Are you ready to go? Are you in mid-season form as we get into match week 1? How are you feeling right now?
Yeah, I think I'm a little concerned about the schedule breakdown and how things have to start for Atlanta United. It's just a tough start to the season. So, and I mentioned this to you before, a lot of moving pieces. We maybe have our best guesses as to what the starting lineup is going to be, but we don't necessarily have a bona fide structure just yet. So just a lot of moving parts heading into the season. And it just felt like last year you kind of ramped up with a couple of easy games there early on, within the first 2 or 3 at least. And this year, a little bit different. You're kind of jumping right into one of the contenders in the Eastern Conference. So looking forward to that.
Yep, Cincinnati on the board, and they are a minus 123 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. 90-minute draws a plus 279, and basically Atlanta United right now is just about a plus 300 in the juice boxes. Not necessarily a surprise considering how both teams were last year. And to the point that you make about the schedule, it is at Cincinnati, at San Jose, then you come home for the home opener against Salt Lake. Then you've got the early Saturday game against Philadelphia. Then DC United comes in, and then you have Columbus. Then you head to Chicago. Then you go to Nashville. Then you go to New England. Then you go to Toronto. Or New England comes here. Then you go to Toronto, and that gets you into May. So happy 2026 to all of those who celebrate, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, look, we talked about it, and kind of my philosophy is not going to change a ton of where it's always been. If you can get 1 point on the road, I think you're doing a good job. And so an opportunity early on in your first 2 games to kind of feel a little momentum before you come home and hope to get the full 3 at home. So we'll see how it plays out. But again, just kind of interested to see what the plan is, what the lineup is, and what is like noticeably, obviously different from what we saw last year to this year, with possibly the same players, but possibly new players, and also, the tactics and all that from Tata.
Yeah, and you mentioned new players. Report came out yesterday from Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert. It looks like, possibly, probably, that Fafa Pico might be added to the mix before the beginning of the season. We were looking at, winger striker. That was one of the positions we were looking at. And so now Jamal Thierry is in Columbus, and you might be adding Fafa Pico before the season starts. And Fafa has been productive last couple of stops. He was with the folks down in Fort Lauderdale and with Messi and friends. And so he was a good complementary piece for the and friends part of things, and it looks like he might be headed this way.
Well, and the question you have to ask yourself, is this a situation where you just felt you could add a talented piece, or is it a situation where you looked at what you had on your roster and you went to the upper stairs and say, we can't enter the season with just this? And obviously it's nice to add a piece, but it'd be better if you didn't feel necessarily you were forced to and you didn't have confidence in what you had. So we'll see, if he gets here, when he gets here, how long it takes him to get accustomed to the team, the teammates, and everything that's required of him, and the impact that he can have. But it's never a great situation to be adding someone this late, this close to the season, whether it's by, certainly you don't want to be adding them by need, but even by preference. You just don't have the ramp up period that is you need. And I think we've seen at times it's sometimes tough to get the amount of practices, the quality of practices once the season is underway, to really ingratiate someone. So hopefully that's not an issue. Obviously knows the league, which certainly helps. I know we've had those discussions, but we'll see how it plays out. But I'm never a fan of adding someone this late because it always feels like you're doing it to try and cover something up at the last moment, which is not the feeling you want heading into the season.
Well, all right. Well, then let me counter it. Let me counter that with some guy named Joseph Martinez, because Joseph was a late pickup too now. And I know that you got lightning in a bottle with Joseph. So, I know that you're not going to get the same thing from Papa Pico that you got from Joseph when you picked him up. But I'm just saying that there are those folks that can plug in and you'll be okay. I wasn't saying that he's going to score 128 goals, in his mid-30s and beyond. I'm just saying that you can find those pieces, and if they integrate, then you're cool. So that was my counter to your argument, sir.
Yeah, no doubt. But to your point, what I've seen from Joseph throughout his career, what I've seen from Pico, the expectations will be slightly modified.
Oh, so expectations. Let's get into that. I guess let's take it by position group. Expectations in net when you look at Jaden Hibbert and Lucas Hoyos would be blank. We'll play match game, I guess.
Boy. Well, here's the question I found myself asking myself.
And you went self?
Yes, I said self. What is the plan for Jaden Hibbert if Hoyos is starting? Because this is still a young guy who needs minutes. He needs game action. He needs to develop. If the plan is for Hoyos, what are we doing with Hibbert? Like I don't know if there's value for him just being with the club, sitting as the second man. Maybe he plays here and there on a given 2-match week situation or one of the, we have 3 matches in 7 days type stuff. Or is it a situation where you send him back to the twos and you let him develop, or you loan him out or something like that? If he's not starting, what is the plan? Because you can't continue to develop a young goalie without giving him those minutes. And so it's going to be interesting to see if that is the case, if they do in fact give Hoyos the nod and what the plan is with Hibbert, or if because of the situation they say, Hibbert, you're not really where we need you to be, but we're going to put you in there and hope you develop and hope you get there relatively quickly. I guess, and you may know, I don't have any knowledge of like official decisions of who's starting.
Right.
It feels like maybe based on kind of what we've seen lineup wise that maybe Hoyos is getting the nod. And again, if that is the case, and who knows, like this could be Tata just playing tricks on the media the entire time and not really telling us and who's going to be doing what.
It's like you got to prepare for both. That way, you got to sit there.
Yeah, a little bit of that. But if it is going to be Hoyos, what's the plan for Hibbert? And then, like I've always said, I've been comfortable with Hibbert back there. But if that's not the decision, then I mean, look, I don't know a ton about Hoyos, but I'll trust the decision from Tata and go from there.
And you've had in times past where you've had keepers who were in their mid-30s. You go back to the time with Messi and friends, and you bring in Oscar. You bring in Oscar Ustari, and you have him as that experienced voice and those kinds of things back there. And so, like I said, right now that's what you're kind of staring at with that particular position. With the back line, you look at how it's going with defenders. And like I said, this is just a characterization at the time that they signed Elias Baez. So Baez, as far as we know, is still working through the international transfer certificate, P1 visa, all that kind of stuff. So 10 defenders. And this is taking, and you can go left back, right back, and you can take that and have it as one conversation, and then center backs is another. So Amador, Baez, Barakal, DCQ, who's probably out for another month,
Mhm.
Matt Edwards, Gregerson, Ronald Hernandez, Tomas Jakob, and Mihai, and Caden Moore, who's on loan to Philly through the end of the year. So those 9, you can break it up into outside backs and center backs if you want.
Well, let's take Jakob out of this. It just feels like he's been playing a little bit more midfield than a true defender. So for the moment, I think you're stuck, obviously, with Pedro. And stuck's not the right term. That makes it sound like a negative. But I think for the moment, until Bias gets here and gets ingratiated to the team, I don't think you can run him out there day one. The question for me is now on the right side. If it's not going to be Jakob, are you going Ronald? Or is Matt Edwards kind of in that discussion? Again, a situation where you feel comfortable with both. But maybe Ronald, just from an experience factor, gets the nod there, and then we'll see what Matt does. And is Matt in the discussion on the left side potentially as well? For me, and this is just my preference, I'm Mihai and Stian in the middle.
Right.
But I think there's that Barracall is fairly in the discussion. That's, again, of course, assuming that we are going with 4 in the back, which, of course, we might take the field in Cincinnati and you're running all 3 of those guys out there. And I'm like, well, I put Barracall on the bench. Now he's in there, but so are the other guys. So who knows?
Right.
Honestly, that kind of makes this season, the start of it, a little bit more fascinating to me. Is just I don't have a read on what the plans are positionally, or necessarily formation wise. At least not like a definitive. I have an idea of what they're doing, but nothing definitive that I can take to the bank and say, here's what's going on. And while that makes planning for the pregame show a little bit more difficult than I would prefer it be, it does give us a lot to talk about. And when we get to the pregame show, I'm just going to be like, Maddie, this is what is going on. And I thought it would be this. It kind of is that. Tell me why. What is the mindset here and all that. And so there's just so much discussion to be had between now and when the opening kick finally gets there. I mean, and it even boosts once they have the official lineups and formation out, an hour before kickoff. So just a lot to consider. A lot of questions still remain. I feel like, and maybe it's just short-term memory loss here, I feel like most years we have a pretty strong idea of like, all right, here's your center back pairing. Here's your outside backs. Yeah, maybe there's a little switch here in the midfield if you want to go offensive or defensive or this or that. But we kind of could draw it up pretty close. This year, I think there's a number of positions where it's just a big question mark, and I really don't have a strong lean. Maybe a preference, but only mine, not Tata's. And so it will be really interesting to see when we finally get the lineup for game one, what exactly the plan is.
Okay, and I guess what we can do is we can operate under the premise of the television graphic of a 4-2-3-1. So I guess let's do that. Let's do that. So then midfield, we can take it in the you can take it with 6s, and then you can take it with attackers. So if we break it up into those 2 position groups, 11 midfielders currently: Miguel, Alzate, Jay, Adrian Gill, Saba, Alexi, Tristan, Santi Pita, Will Riley, Cooper Sanchez, Aiden Torres. I would imagine that obviously a couple of those are going to be spending more time with the 2s than they would be with the first team. But once again, you're going to be looking at multiple competitions, and you're going to be looking at how the vibe is during the week as to whether or not they'll be a part of the travel squad and maybe getting some minutes. So if you were to look at that group and break it up into 6s and attack in the midfield, what sticks in your mind?
Yeah, the question for me is the wild card of Adrian Gill, and I just don't really know where he fits in or where he belongs. Again, I mentioned Jakob is kind of felt like more like he's going to be pairing, I would guess, with Alzate as your 2 6s. And we go from there. Obviously, Miggy and Alexi are going to be 2 of the 3 midfielders with Latte Loth up top, and that kind of leaves one. I don't know the physical aspect of Jay yet, so I don't think he's in the discussion either. Is that where we see Gill maybe as a more attacking midfielder? Is that where Saba and Luke Brennan get the run? There's definitely a name out there, a midfield spot out there that I don't have the answer to. I would think that Saba or Luke probably have the edge there, but if you told me they were shaping stuff a little bit weirder, and Adrian Gill's going to be involved as well. He's at least been here a little bit longer now and gotten used to things. So I would think it feels like Jacob and Alzate in the back. We'll see how long that lasts. I don't know what Moyamba and what his role is going to be, and same for Gill. So I don't know. Like, again, it's just it's there's potential for odd formations or unexpected names joining Miggy and Alexi in the midfield. So I'm here for it. I'm excited to see it, and I don't really know how I'll respond to it or break it down. That's what Maddie's here for. She'll do all the hard work for me.
Yeah. To your point on Tristan, we know that that Tristan likes to be a bit of a swashbuckler at times in the midfield, where he's the one that likes to go forward. And then does that mean that if he is part of the attacking mix, then what does that look like? So then that means that Alzate or whomever that 6 is gets to stay home a little more, and Tristan gets engaged in the play, or are they going to turn Tristan into a more of a 6 role where it's like, okay, in the quotation marks 4-2-3-1, where he is one of your 2 6s.
Don't do that.
And then you have the 3 in attack, where the left side is your question. And that brings into the notion of your forwards currently listed. Like I said, this is how the roster is listed by Atlanta United, and it's not necessarily attached to how things are with graphics. Your forwards are listed as Luke, Latte Lot, and Togashi. And obviously, keep the idea of Fafa Pico in your hip pocket. But Luke is now listed as a forward. So Luke left, forward, maybe Latte Lot, yes, Togashi backup. So the forwards you kind of get an idea for. And do you classify Luke as that forward on the left, or do you classify him as a midfielder, that left-hand side midfielder in the attack? So that's kind of where we are with those 4.
Well, let me start with the idea of Moyamba as one of the 6s. You can't have a 6 that gives in to their urges to push, right? They have to play within the idea of responsibility. And I think at times, and I like Moyamba. I think he's fantastically skilled. I think mentally he comes up short at times and costs you. I just can't have a guy there that I don't trust to remain home at times, giving into those urges to get into the attack and push up field. So I don't have a problem with Moyamba being on the field. I'm not overly comfortable with him being a 6. Although that does put into the idea of when we bring Jacob in and we're like, this is our right back, and then all of a sudden he's in the 6s, that is because he is probably a more defensive-minded guy. It is a guy who maybe you can devote to staying home a little bit when a midfielder gets pushed up, or when an outside winger, right back, left back gets pushed up. He can maneuver in, slide in, and push whatever it is. So I would say it's possible, but I would be a little bit concerned if Moyamba were one of the 2 6s. If he's part of the midfield and they're doing some wonky diamond-shaped stuff, then have at it. He can be, above the 6s, but behind Miggy and behind Alexi, and make that shape work however it does. But I don't know if I love him as a 6.
Yeah, and I thought that another word was going to come out of your mouth when you're talking about doing the midfield, and I was waiting for that other S word to come out on a Monday. But that's where we are, and like I said, keeping an eye on a couple of transactions. Obviously, Fafa Pico is one. We'll get into the other one with Matias Galarza-Fonda coming up here in a sec. But we're there, man. It's crazy. The next time that we talk on Monday, it will be about a game result in Cincinnati, huh?
Yeah, speaking of game results, did we ever get a report what happened on Saturday? Like I looked,
it was rain, it was the weather. They called it off.
Oh, so they didn't play. Well, that'd be why. I looked at multiple places, and I was like, I don't see any write-ups of this. So that makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. What we got yesterday was what they had the day before, and so that's what it was. It was weather.
It was swirling. There's no doubt about that. So all right, that makes more sense because I kept checking for stuff. So there you go. It's here. I mean, it's here, and there's just it's a national TV game, which is pretty cool for Atlanta United to kick off the season in that manner. Hopefully, they can showcase something. And look, I think I can probably say this. I have definitely been too optimistic about Atlanta United in previous seasons. Some of those years I think were warranted. Last year obviously fell apart quite quickly. This year I'm pretty hesitant to get on out there and be like, this offense is this or this defense or that team is that. This is really going to be a year where, based off of the expectations and more so the reality of last season, I'm just going to kind of feel it out and see how things are trending and kind of assess as we go what I think this team is capable of. I don't think I was alone last year when I'm coming into the season. I was like, this should be one of the 4 best offenses in the Eastern Conference, if not all of MLS. This or that, and obviously nowhere close. Very hesitant to kind of get into that mode this year. So a lot more of a wait and see approach, which is probably healthier to begin with. I won't just be frustrated day in, day out by whatever happens on the field. I don't think this is going to be a season that's worse than last year. I think I can safely say that. It should be better, hopefully building towards something. And if we catch lightning in a bottle or get the surprises that maybe we thought we were getting last year, then I'm here for it. But I am a little hesitant. I am a little, I don't know if nervous is the right word, but cautious to kind of put this team and put expectations on this team without really having a feel for it. So we're not going to do that this year. We're not going to do any of these bold takes that fall horrifically flat on all of our faces. We're just going to watch and take it all in, break it down as we can. And looking forward to that. There's no doubt about it.
So 3:30 on 92.9 The Game in the Odyssey app?
I'd have to look back at my notes. What time's the game? They is
4:45.
So then 3:30. Well, 3:30 with an extra couple of minutes in there for your listening pleasure. But don't forget, there's also a very special Atlanta Soccer Tonight, tomorrow night.
Yep.
Kind of a much more in-depth season preview. I'll be part of that, along with obviously Jason, you, Maddie, the whole crew is going to be involved. So really looking forward to that. Going to have to definitely pick Jason's brain off the air so I sound smart when we go on the air. But it's a big week, man. It's kickoff. We've also got a special show on Wednesday, Andy and Randy, the midday show. We're going to be live at the training ground. We'll have a couple of interviews for you between 11 and 2 o'clock there. So looking forward to getting back out towards Marietta, seeing the latest updates the training grounds got to offer, and setting the stage for the season. It's a big week.
No doubt about it. As always, my friend, great to see you. We'll be catching up with you in person tomorrow for everybody with Atlanta Soccer Tonight in the season preview. And then we'll be back at it every single blanking day where we talk about stuff. It's good to see you, my friend.
Yeah, it's time to grind, John, no doubt.
Yeah, there goes Abe Gordon. He's going to go grind on his second cup of coffee, maybe. Properly hydrated to make sure that there is no cramping. Make sure that everything is okay with the calves and the hamstrings. And this is the other part. We got to get ready for this Atlanta Soccer Tonight preview that's going to be on 92.9 The Game. We got to be properly hydrated for that. 8 to 10, I believe, is when that's going to be. So it's going to be a big preview with all of us there. And it's going to be live on 92.9. And it's going to be Jason and I believe Mike and Abe and Maddie and me and basically everybody. So it's going to be fun. This is kind of like the official kicking off of the week. And then on 92.9, you've got the AST preview and then everything else leading up to it. So once again, if you missed it off the top, busy as ish. And Friday is the show of chaos from our friends at Apple TV. There's many of them that want to come in and crash. You can come in and crash, talk about the season, talk about their game in particular. That's going to be on Friday. Friday's going to be wall-to-wall MLS preview with our friends from Apple TV. And then Thursday, and we've got Dalton and Johnson Gainesville, and that one is at the Castle, and that's a night game with me and Maddie, considering that Jason will be in Cincinnati. So it will be big stuff there with the Major League Soccer folks on Friday. Power Hour on Thursday. We get to catch up with our friends at Atlanta Amputee for their award that they picked up from U.S. Soccer. That's Thursday. Wednesday, Red Clay Soccer Report at noon. We catch up with Coach Jeanette from GMC Prep, Coach Lawson from Jeff Davis, Kelly Bowler from Johns Creek. Then we have hopefully the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler, on Wednesday with Jessica Charman batting leadoff. Tuesday, it's the return of Casey White. She's at 10. Alex Aldaz, the U.S. U17 head coach, where they have recently qualified for the World Cup in Qatar. That was last week in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. They've made their way back. He's joining us batting leadoff at 9:05. We're taping Will Pelagic on Tuesday. He's going to be in the Wednesday show to get the Charlotte FC perspective as they get ready for their matchup against All Caps. Batting leadoff on the season, Jess Charman is going to be the play-by-play on that one in St. Louis. So very, very cool moment for those of us here in the footprint and you got today. And like I said, I've reached out to another handful of folks. We got SOT tonight and another handful of folks I've reached out to. And we'll see if we can plug and play with some of those folks to get more previews in and around match week 1. And I've also got some folks that are going to be next week because this week is entirely too busy, like Max Anderson, who's a part of the Chicago Fire broadcast team. He's joining us next week because this week being this week and next week not being this week, that's when Max is going to join us. And so I've got about a list of 6, 10 different dudes and folks. So I've got 10 different markets that I'm staring at. And we know that Max Anderson from Chicago is going to be with us next week. So I've got 9 that I'm kind of keeping an eye on, and we'll see if we can fill in some holes, and then those other folks will be with us next week. Now, mentioned Fafa Pico. That came from our buddy Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert, and I think that the 280 character app is officially fixed. So it was difficult getting information this morning, but now that it seems to be allegedly up and running, news from Tom Bogert. And we'll get into the other news from Bogert coming up in a sec. And it was about lunchtime yesterday where he had mentioned that Atlanta United is set to sign Fafa Pico, turning 35 this week, 244 appearances since 2017, 13 plus 6 in his last 2 seasons on just under 2,400 minutes. So keeping an eye on that one. Also, and this was a conversation that if you follow our buddy Nico Moreno from Pulso Sports and Sounder at Heart on the 280, it was mentioned yesterday that Nashville is finalizing a deal to pick up wingback Reed Baker-Whiting from Seattle, and it is a cash deal. It's one of the intra-league cash transactions, $800,000 plus add-ons. Reed Baker-Whiting, 79 first-team appearances, and he can play either fullback spot featured at the U20 World Cup. So according to Nico, this was a move that made sense on a couple of different fronts for Seattle because of the surplus at that position. And Nico's point was that with depth at winger and wingback, it made sense for the Sounders to make the move, and new Nashville assistant Chris Little probably a factor in the club's interest in Reed Baker-Whiting. So kind of keeping an eye out on that one. So fullback or on the wings, depth behind Lovitz and Nahar, starting potential for Reed Baker-Whiting. So keep an eye on Reed Baker-Whiting going from Seattle to Nashville. Nothing officially official yet. And I'm keeping an eye on my email to sit there and go, okay, is that official? But we don't know yet. So that's where we go. All right. So those are the moves that are domestic. Now, the one report from Germán Garcia Grova yesterday was last week we were discussing Matias Galarza-Fonda from River Plate. And Germán Garcia Grova came in yesterday with an update, and River had deemed Atlanta United's proposal for Matias Galarza-Fonda insufficient. The same was a loan offer with an option to purchase. And so keeping an eye on Matias Galarza-Fonda right now, he would be a central midfielder. Another central midfielder for you. He has played at the 9 and he has played as a 6. He's a central midfielder. So his form at River Plate, and we went into the notion of his agent Carlos Leite, and Carlos Leite does have some players that are in Major League Soccer, and and a lot of them have to do with he has a lot of Brazilians in his stable. So he has João Gomes and Andre at Wolves, Gabriel Sará, who is at Galatasaray, Gerson, who is at Cruzeiro, Paulinho, who is at Palmeiras, Talisca, who is at Fenerbahce, And he also, and when it comes to Major League Soccer, when it comes to value in the Leite stable, Gabriel Peck and Talis Magno. So that's the agency that you're looking at here and the direction of the players. But most of the players in the agency that are attached to Matias Galarza-Fonda are of Brazilian descent. So Talis Magno is there, and he is NYC. Excuse me, NYC. Gabriel Peck at LAG. So Matias Galarza-Fonda, one of the non-Brazilians, he is both Paraguayan and Bolivian descent. But in that stable, there is a history of Carlos Leite's agency dealing with Major League Soccer. And that was the point that I was getting to. But Matias Galarza-Fonda right now under contract through 28 and listed at €3 million in value, according to our friends at Transfermarkt. And so right now, going with that as your figure, if that's what you were looking for, the figure attached to Matias Galarza-Fonda somewhere in 3. Right now, it was listed as insufficient from the perspective of River as they were trying to bring in Matias Galarza-Fonda to Atlanta United. So we'll keep an eye out on that and see if that one continues going forward with and everyone is referencing the initial story from Herman Garcia Grova. So keep an eye on that one. And that is another one that would be adding another midfielder to the mix. And so once again, we're keeping an eye on that. River has, if they do, and Galarza-Fonda is a left-footed midfielder. If this was to happen, then River would have until the 12th of March to come up with a replacement. We talk about windows and their lengths. South American windows are open far longer than what we've seen in Europe. Turkish window just closed. And so the South American windows are open into March. And so River, if they decide to go through with this transaction on any level, they would have until March the 12th to come up with a substitute if you are looking for a substitute, if you're a fan of River. So that's where we're staring at right now, and it'll be an opportunity to see if Atlanta United makes any moves between now and the beginning of the season. So we'll keep an eye out for that. Just for reference point, Fafa Pico, his base salary last year was $600,000, guaranteed compensation at $642, and so if you were to compare that to Jamal had a base of $700 and guaranteed comp of $730. So if you use that as a base, in theory, you would anticipate that if you're looking at it from a salary perspective, then Atlanta United would be paying less for Fafa than they did for Jamal. So it's and you never know, that 100,000 could make a difference somewhere down the line. But if you use that as a metric for what you're looking at when it comes to your cap. So last year, Jamal guaranteed comp of $730. Last year, guaranteed comp for Fafa Pico at $642. So that's where we are with the Atlanta United movement. Just to give you an idea. Oh, let me say hi to everybody. And I haven't even done opening kickoff yet. Man. Okay. All right. So looking at who's in this morning. Morning Will. And Will, I think that part of Will obviously looking at striker depth, and that's why you bring in somebody like Fafa Pico. So, Cayman Togashi, the trust goes to Tata Martino, but, like I said, that's why you have the reports about Cayman Togashi. All right, so morning Will, and let's see, morning Michael. I saw Michael was in here this morning. So, Abby, Ricky, my expectations of what they were in 2017. Let it play out. So let's see, morning Ricky, and let's see who else is in. Morning Abby, morning Will, and I'm trying to see. So, and Alex did give an update on the axle. So hang on just a second. Let's see, Ricky, Michael, Abby. I'm trying to see who else is in here this morning. Let's see. I think. Let's see. Oh, morning 1:30. No, and you got in just at the right time, 1:30. Is it 13 or is it 13-0 or is it 1:30? That looks like an O. And I'm sorry if I can't tell the difference between an O and a 0 and an O in this particular font. So morning 1:30 or morning 13:0. Let's see. Oh, yes. Thank you, Abby. Scott Flood wanted me to remind everybody, our master of commercial, SDH Chant app. You need to rejoin. Automatic renewal is off. So rejoin on Chant. So if you are a part of everything on the Chant app with SDH, right here, right there, Chant, rejoin. There it is. So it's kind of thinking at the moment. But yes, and so renew. Yeah, because when you tap on your Fanatico's membership, and once again, you're looking at all of these discounts. So once again, it is $10 per membership to be a Fanatico, and you get all these great discounts at all these really cool places. And it's always really cool to have this. To remember, be a part of the Fanaticos. And once again, go to the Chant app, download it, and it's the Soccer Down Here element that's attached to Atlanta United. So Chant app, and you have to renew. So renew when it comes to everything with the Chant app. So we all can be on the same page when it comes to Atlanta United coming up this week. So renew. And I'm probably going to mention this a lot this week. So on the Chant app, and it's $10 a year for membership, and all of that helps out our Soccer for Good campaigns and everything that's attached to it. So renew on the Chant app, people. Probably something I'm going to have to write down and renew all and talk about all week long. So I'm going to do that right now. Renew on the Chant app. So I'm going to sit here and go renew Chant app. So now I've written it down so that way I can talk about it all week long. Renew on the Chant app right there. And so we talked about Fafa Pico, and we talked about Herman Garcia Grova and Matias Galarza Fonda. And so that's where we are with that. Okay. All right. So, and yes, and morning, Alex's update on the back axle. He's able to put the weight on the knee now. So progress. Very, very good stuff. So very, very cool. And thanks to everybody who's a part of us. Not quite talking in the Twitch pitch. Don't be shy, but it's okay if you just kind of want to watch and be a part of the conversation there too. So very, very cool stuff. And it looks like maybe and so Abby is like, I mean, it looks like it did automatically renew. So, oh, wow. Okay. So there's new SDH discounts coming in the next month, in addition to the ones that are already on the app. Good deal. Cool. All right. Abby with the updates on everything with the SDH on the Chant app. And remember, like I said, it's $10 a year, but like I said, it goes to all of our initiatives for Soccer for Good, and it helps out that aspect of our growth and our existence here in 2026. Okay. Let's see. What else is going on in Major League Soccer, since we are kind of there? We'll talk, Major League Soccer a little bit, and Bart's going to be joining us at the top of the hour. We'll get into all the things, and yeah, we'll talk about VAR. We're going to talk about VAR, something serious. Okay. What happened this past weekend? San Jose beat NYCFC, Useni Buddha, Nico Shakiris. Perfect record at Coachella. San Jose won. Sporting beat Austin. Portland beat Chicago 4-3. Charlotte beat Minnesota 2-1. Houston, because of a lack of other action, got the inaugural Torneo de Tejas after they beat Red Bull 3-2 at Hell in a Shell. Hat trick from Guilherme. You might want to hang on to him for fantasy. So Houston beat Red Bulls 3-2. They got the Torneo de Tejas. Elsewhere, DC beat All Caps 3-1. Lex SC beat Nashville 2-1. New England put 6 on Hartford Athletic. Real Salt Lake had a draw and a win in a day-night doubleheader with LAG. Seattle had 2 wins against Lou City, 3-1 and 5-0. Danny Cruz was pleased with the effort that he got from Lou City. Tampa Bay and CF Montreal a 2-2 draw, and I'm sure that Joey Saputo decided to yell at his team. Moves on the weekend. Kyle Duncan goes to Minnesota United from Red Bulls on a free. Sebastian Rodriguez to Monterrey from Houston on loan. Joaquin Valiente from Defensor to FC Dallas. That's a transfer. Gino Vivi from LAG to Tampa Bay Rowdies on a loan, and he'll be spending the beginning of the season in USL Championship. Defender Sam Williams goes from Chicago Fire to the Colorado Springs Switchbacks on loan. So keep an eye out on these kinds of moves. If you don't have any kind of a if you don't want to send a player to your MLS Next Pro team and you want to have them get reps in a championship or wherever, you'll see these loan deals coming up, and you probably will see some teams continue to tweak with their rosters going forward and laying all that out. So right now, as we look at things, GAM available for Atlanta United kind of was in the middle of the pack. $4.5 million a GAM and Garber Bucks as of a little less than a month ago. And so you've now added Elias Baez. He's going to be one of your U22s. Right now, you're 3-3. You still have one U22 position available for you. And if I'm not mistaken, if you went for Galarza Fonda, I think he would be a U20. No, he's 24. Okay, so he would be an AM player. I thought for some reason he was 21. We'll keep an eye out on that. But right now, Atlanta United at 3-2. You still have that third U22 position available for you. And so keep an eye on what that might look like. But middle of the pack when it comes to your Garber Bucks that are available, and Miguel Atelat Miranchuk, your DPs, Tomas Jakob, Elias Baez, or your U22s, you still have that third U22 available for you. Austin is the team to look at that is really hurting when it comes to all of their AM. Only 2.5 available in AM, and most of that was kind of given to you. The number I think was 2.2. I think was what your yearly number was, and so not a whole lot of game available for Austin. But of course, with their investments, obviously you bring in somebody like Facundo Torres. You're 3-3, and looking at right now, I think Mirto Uzuni is still in camp. And there were discussions, Mirto Uzuni, because I know that last week there was a discussion about him going outbound. And I'm trying to see what the latest was. But, okay, so no deal from Trabzonspor. And so the deal from Trabzonspor did not finalize. So that's why Uzuni is still one of your 3 DPs. So you brought in your third DP with the Facundo Torres, and you've still got 2.5 in GAM heading forward. So we'll keep an eye, like I said, we'll keep an eye on roster moves for the remainder of the week, and we'll see what it's going to look like, folks up, folks down, and we'll see if anybody else is going to be adding anything when it comes to rosters heading into match week. Just to give you a quick idea, and I know that these numbers are going to change heading into the weekend. It is Charlotte at St. Louis. City favored at a plus 108 as Charlotte comes to town. We mentioned the Cincinnati numbers. DC hosting Philly. DC's a big dog at a plus 240. Philly's just about even money at a plus 102. Purple team is a favorite on the minus side against Red Bulls at a minus 106. Once again, this is a composite from about 7 different juice boxers. Put them in a pile, take the average. Purple team favored right now against Red Bulls. Red Bulls is a plus 269 on the road to Central Florida. Vancouver hosting RSL. They're a big favorite at home on the minus side at a minus 159. RSL's a plus 375. 830s, which are 840s. Austin favored at home on the plus side against Minnesota United. No word on Hamas and his integration and what that's going to look like yet. Austin a plus 134. Minnesota United a plus 194 on the road at Q2. Dallas hosting Toronto. Plus side favorite at a plus 121. Toronto is a plus 204. Houston at Hell in a Shell, favored on the plus side barely against Chicago. Houston a plus 149. Chicago is a plus 163. Nashville at home at Geodis against the Revs at a minus 132. Revs on the road a plus 313. Your 930 is 930, so 930, 940. LAFC and Messi and friends. LAFC is a plus 110 because we don't know the health status of Messi. Right now, Messi and friends are a plus 210 heading to the Coliseum, because this one's not at BMO. This is at the Coliseum. So at the Coliseum, or the Mausoleum, for those of us that were raised out there, LAFC favored at a plus 110, and Messi and friends are a plus 210, draws a plus 264. 10:40 starts Portland hosting Columbus. Columbus, big favorite on the road at a plus 129. Portland, a dog at home at a plus 189. San Diego, big favorite at home, minus 217. And CF Montreal is a plus 493 in the composite. And then your last 10:40 It is San Jose hosting Sporting. No real surprise. Sporting, with all of their offseason acquisitions and moves and things, they're a plus 252, and San Jose is a minus 112. So that's your juice boxes here for Saturday. On Sunday, you've got two matches. LAG hosting NYC, and that is your Sunday showcase on Apple TV. And that is plus 146 for the home side. Draws a plus 260. NYC is a plus 160. So they're a slight underdog on the road, all the way in Los Angeles. And then your late game is 9:25, listed at 9:15. So I'm just adding 10 minutes. Seattle hosting Colorado. Seattle big favorite at a minus 213. Colorado is a plus 482. So those are your early numbers this week when it comes to your juice boxes. We'll get into previews and game things and all of the news and stuff to update as we go during the week. But that's your early numbers right now. Not a whole lot of surprises in that, except for obviously the number that's attached to Messi and friends. But once again, when Messi his health is in question because of the muscle injury that he got, muscle tweak on the preseason tour, then that's why they had to push the one friendly back into next month, I think it's next month. And that's why right now they are a decided underdog at a plus 210. Set your fantasy teams appropriately. And apparently Major League Soccer now has taken stuff off of their website, and they're doing something completely and totally different. And now you've got to download another app. So you have that to look forward to when it comes to all of your fantasy stuff. And there you go. All right. So Bart Keeler joining us in a couple of minutes. We'll go through a lot of different things and get you ready for the week as it will be. Since we mentioned Tom Bogert, let's go to our buddy Ben Jacobs and break everything down on the European side of things when it comes to players, player movement, desires, and all that kind of stuff. Nottingham Forest confirmed that Vitor Pereira has joined as head coach on an 18-month contract. I hope that Vitor Pereira is getting paid in full. That's going to be a long 18 months. And I think that they're turning into like Wolves and Watford. Evangelinos Marinakis is turning into Wolves and Watford when it comes to bringing in managers. Fourth manager this year. Fourth. Remember, this started with Nuno, Ange, Dyche, and now Pereira. Obviously, we'll go on to the flip side. Since it was an FA Cup weekend, we'll go over FA Cup because there's also some FA Cup. I think there's FA Cup today, as a matter of fact, because we have to keep up with our friends at Macclesfield and make sure that they can get another massive upset in the FA Cup. That is, it's today. It is today at 2:30. Brentford at Macclesfield. And our buddy Rob Smethurst. And Macclesfield, by the way, is a plus 1108 in the composite. Brentford a minus 556. Heading to Macclesfield. Can Macclesfield knock off somebody else? They knocked off Crystal Palace last time. Can they take Brentford this time? We'll find out at 2:30 with the FA Cup. So looking forward to that one, and we'll see what happens. But, Vitor Pereira is the fourth manager for Nottingham Forest this year. And we also have a John Textor update that I'll get to on the flip side. Igor Tudor, the new head coach until the end of the year at Spurs. And we'll see how that is. And, look, all I'm going to say is this. When it comes to Tudor and Spurs, just ask Nick. Ask Nick about that and see what Nick thinks. And then after 15 or 20 minutes of hearing laughter on the other end of the phone, then you'll sit there and you might understand his perspective on Tudor and on Spurs. So, Abby, morning four card, and Abby letting us all know she's in the door. FIFA World Cup volunteer, very, very cool. Woo woo. If I had a horn in the audio section, I would probably use it. But I need where's my goal horn? Oh, Ropes had me get a goal horn here. Hang on just a second. And where is it? Oh, here it is. There we go. Here we go. Celebration. There you go. How about that? We got a goal horn for you. So any kind of celebration from anybody in the Twitch pitch from now on will play the goal horn. So yeah, that was on Ropes' suggestion for any kind of like breaking newsy kind of things that's the different kind of breaking news. So that's what we're getting into when it comes to all that. So yeah, Abby got the goal horn this morning. All right. Let's see. And like I said, I'm waiting on Bart to come in. We're going to have a lot to talk about. A lot to talk about when it comes to VAR. And literally, it got to the point, and this is, I'm not going to play the soundbite, but you literally had people, it was such a bad weekend in England where VAR was concerned. You literally had hosts teeing up pundits about VAR and ishing on referees where they believe that VAR is a crutch now. And if I was a ref and I heard that kind of a quote from a pundit, one of two things would happen. Either I would sit there and I would be just like, or it would be, just one of those where I'd be pissed and I'd want to sit there and pull them aside and go, really? You really want to go? And so let's find out from Bart what's on Bart's mind when it comes to this kind of stuff. And so it was an adventure on the weekend when it came to VAR and when it came to refs and officials and VAR down here. Yeah, you're just kind of gassing up. You're just like you're dialing up. You're just going to take the sip from the coffee. You're just kind of sitting there and kicking back a little bit because where this is going to go.
Well, John, we if we're talking officials and VAR, we have to start with the cheating Canadians. Curling, that is.
well, and the thing is, apparently it goes even further than that because it started with we'll make this opening kickoff. I was going to make Valentine's opening kickoff, but we'll go ahead and make curling opening kickoff. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Start your day with the most important stories of the game, and this is damn important, talking about cheating and curling. Most important stories in the game and the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala. Heavy-bodied notes of walnut and semi-sweet chocolate. And a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee and blackpitchcoffee.com. Okay, so cheating, the low-down dirty cheaters that are Canadian in both men's and women's, that actually happened. It started with the men, and then you end up with, and then on a hot mic, it was the most un-Canadian thing I've ever heard from the Canadian skip, basically telling the Swede to blank off on a hot mic, and the entire world heard it. And then apparently, from what I've read, the Swedes, and I think it's the Swedes, it's not the Norwegians, I think it's the Swedes.
It's the Swedes.
So the Swedes set up a camera on the hog line, which is basically the release line. When you see your skip release the stone, you have to release it, and your hand has to be off it by the time you get to that crossbar, which is the hog line. Think of it as like the line of scrimmage. Once you get to that line,
green line on the ice. This week at the Olympics, the green line.
Right. Yeah. So you've got to release it by the time it gets to the green line, and then it goes on its merry way. Once you've released it from the handle of the stone, you're not supposed to touch it ever again, as the rules state in curling. And so it was very, very sly what the Canadian skip did is he released it, and then he took his index finger and he rolls it down the spine and just basically touches it to even it out after he's already released it from the handle. And that's something that you can't do. And he gets caught. The Swedes apparently had put a hogline camera up because they were concerned about it in the past. And you see the double touch. You see the hand, you see the spin off, and you see the touch by the index finger. And then you hear the hot mic and you hear him getting mad. And then it comes to the International Curling Federation. They've got to come up with the whole thing. I got to catch up with our buddy John Schuster and find out about this. I got to, now that I'm all fired up about it. And by the way, we love our man Shuey right here, Duluth FC. I got to catch up with Shuey about this and find out what's on his mind when it comes to all of this. And then it comes to apparently the women's team in Canada got caught doing the same thing, and they got caught, and the stone basically was removed. It's like, this one doesn't count. It's out of play, and we move on. And then I think it happened with a third team that was not in Canada because it wasn't in the mixed category. So it was a team outside of Canada. So it happened 3 times when 3 separate teams in 2 separate countries. Don't touch the stone once you've released it from the handle, people. Low down, dirty cheaters.
We are at the Olympics, so you have to expect Canadians to cheat. That's how it works. The Canadians are going to cheat. I think that's what we learned.
I mean, yeah, so you've got to sit there and just be forewarned about those kinds of things with the neighbors to our north and not be surprised when it happens. I mean, seriously, people, don't cheat. Don't push the stone from behind once you've released it from the handle. Curling.
It is interesting, John, because you brought up the camera that the Swedes pulled out.
Yeah.
There is no video review of that nature in curling.
Nope.
Curling is a gentleman's game, a ladies' game, if you will, and you are supposed to call your own faults, and you're supposed to own up to when you've been fouled. And most of the time, this does come down to like, oh, I happened to maybe touch one of the stones in the house because, I'm sweeping and I was paying attention to the one behind me, or if you are watching, you'll notice there are lights on the handles of the stone that indicate a good or a bad release if you got it released before the hog line. And you're supposed to say, oh, no, hey, that was me. And there's just a lot. They're the ones, they count their own scores. All these things are because the sport is supposed to be friendly and neighborly, if you will. And they don't really use officials all that much. They just don't.
No,
they have officials on every curling sheet, but they're not like that.
They're going. It's like they only had enough officials, and they weren't locked in on one sheet. It was literally the 4 sheets on that particular surface, and they're going among all 4 of the sheets. And if they catch something when they're there, then they catch something. Otherwise, you're off and running, and
correct.
I mean, it's what happens, and you're supposed to call your own fouls and stuff.
Each sheet typically has an official, but that official is just there basically on call, and they record the score. That's basically it. Yeah. So they added 2 other officials to be roving hogline violation scouts, if you will. And it's been a mess. It's been a mess in our beloved game of curling. I think Parma, unfortunately, is working against Sweden, who are 1-4 right now. Nicholas Edin, who is a 4 straight medal winner at the Olympics and a 7-time world champion. He's a fantastic curler, and his team has been pretty consistent throughout all that time. Hasn't been working in their advantage, so hate to see that for Sweden for trying to play by the rules, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily work for Canada. Both their men's and women's teams struggling a little bit. Their mixed doubles teams didn't make the playoffs, unlike their neighbors to the south, who got a medal in the mixed doubles event. It's been fun. I will say, shout out to both the men's and women's teams on the USA side. The women's team looking mighty strong right now, and they are entering the end of their schedule of round robin play, and the men youngins. I'm sure when you talk to Shuey, he will tell you these kids they are kids. They are no more than 25 years old. I think the only thing for their, even with Rich Ruinen, who's a bajillion, he's 54, right? I still think that average age is 27.
Yes, well, and you've got
they are a bunch of young kids.
And it's an inexperienced skip. And what is it? If you keep your head about you while those around you lose theirs, and you're a man now, my son. And when you've got an inexperienced skip in this kind of a situation, you may not necessarily get the gravity of it all. Hey, look, be that unconscious. So let's see. I'm almost done. All right, so I've just officially now sent the email to Shuey to see if he can come by this week. Okay, to talk about, Duluth FC and Minnesota United, and we'll probably try to get a little curling in there too. Okay, that's opening kickoff in hour number 2. Brought to us by our friends at Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. We start your day with the most important stories in the game and the right way to start your morning. Black Pitch Coffee, part of the SDH community, showing up at events all over Atlanta. Try their home blend. Made with beans from Brazil and Guatemala, heavy-bodied, notes of walnut, semi-sweet chocolate, and a rich world-class finish. Opening kickoff powered by Black Pitch Coffee, blackpitchcoffee.com. Okay. I mean, I was explaining how in this particular round of the FA Cup, they don't have VAR yet. It's fifth round. It's a fourth round, not fifth. And so we're still a round away from having VAR because, it's like in a lot of other sports when it comes to review, if it can't be in all the places and you don't have the technology, then you're not going to be able to, have it done. And so I get it. I get the fact that, like today at Macclesfield, I don't think they've got the stadium space to fit VAR technology in there for the game against Brentford. So if you can't have it in all, you can't have it in any. And then you have moments like this, and then you have presenters setting up pundits. Hey, it makes you wish you had and this was what I wanted to start our conversation about officiating with you this week is the quote that was used by this particular individual, and everybody can find it because it's an angry English former player and it's out there, that they were using VAR as a crutch. And I was like, okay, you really kind of need to stop talking, but I know why you're there. And it seems on a weekly basis, we're getting these conversations of should VAR exist in this league? Should VAR not exist in the league? And it's like, are we better off with it? Are we better off without it? You're asking teams that win when VAR, doesn't help them out, which is blatantly obvious. We'll get into Villa and Newcastle and coming up in a bit. It's, I'm trying to get this past the idea of it being a lightning rod talking point, but it gets to be fatiguing when you have individuals that just look at it on its face and don't look at it from what it means to the sport, and then you ish on officials in the backwash of all of this. I don't think it's used as, I don't think in England anyway, I don't think it's really used as a crutch. I think that you have, unfortunately, in Major League Soccer, sometimes you have individuals that want to re-referee, and I think that that's the problem. It's not using it as a crutch. It's there for you as an aid. Unfortunately, it gets used incorrectly at times, and I think that's the rub here in all of this. I don't think it's used as a crutch or as a it was a security blanket, but the word security was changed out. The adjective was changed out by this particular pundit. But it's when you look at VAR, VAR has more value than not having VAR. It just so happens that in this round, when you have professional athletes going at it in a professional venue where you'd like to have it, you can't have it, and you have a bad day for a crew.
Right. I think one of the things that we have become used to with VAR is getting calls right. As much as we hate to say it. And oftentimes, as you point out, the criticism of VAR is overuse. We especially see this on goals scored due to a player being possibly in an offside position, which there was a big stink about a goal scored by a player who probably offside.
Oh, yeah.
But don't they all get really mad when you call a player offside by a toenail or an eyelash? Yet now they're saying, oh, well, he was kind of maybe possibly offside. If I remember, I forget exactly the game, but I did watch it. It was one of those where, well, there's a defender with his foot dragging back, and there's three guys who maybe are offside, but it's kind of hard to tell because, again, especially as an attacker, if you're leaning forward, well, once you get past the non-playable part of the arm, that could be offside. But is shoulder offside? And again, if you've got a defender who has taken a step back and now his foot possibly is keeping a player offside or onside, I should say. In the past, we said, if you aren't 100% sure, keep your flag down and it's a goal. Well, now all of a sudden that's a problem.
Well,
so I do agree that we are flipping our stance on VAR a little bit because you complain, especially during an offside call, when VAR gets it too exact.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But now you're saying, oh, well, the AR didn't get right. Correct. It's really hard to see that line when you have a lot of shifting bodies. And again, you're looking at a lot of different body parts that aren't necessarily on the same horizontal plane, because you're looking at a shoulder versus a foot.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of hard to tell. Or, when exactly, this is the hard part that, again, we do criticize VAR for a lot of times, but
Yeah.
identifying the exact moment of the kick can be hard too. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is just a better way to show, like, yeah, officiating at this level is very hard. These players are pretty quick, they are pretty agile, and there's a lot of people moving around a field. Sometimes you're going to miss things, and that's just the reality when you only have 3 officials for 22 players on a field.
Should we add a fourth like they did in the NBA, where they have two referees now?
I think we've talked about this before. That is tough because now you're adding a different perspective on call making.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we see this in the NBA where guys, you have players, referees out there who, in theory, are working as a team, but may have slightly different standards for what a foul is.
Yeah.
But in soccer, especially, there are way bigger swings and what is a foul, what isn't. Or even, as we've talked about, like, what is this game in the context of this game? What is a foul and what is something that we're just going to let kind of play on? But it is something that I think might be interesting, because the only times that we really see a 2-man crew, or 2 centers, 2 guys on the field calling actual fouls, so 2 referees on the field, is, especially on our side of the pond, high school, where you only have 2 officials anyway, and they're also tasked with keeping up with offside and watching
Mm-hmm.
fouls. So I do wonder, because there are ways for, I think, maybe another official on the field to be tested, and I, to my knowledge, we have not gone through an actual testing of that potential. Now, I don't think you want to do that in any sort of competition, which is kind of the hard part. A lot of the tests we run are done at youth levels, or MLS is sometimes a guinea pig. But adding a whole nother official on the field that's calling fouls, I'm not sure in what environments you truly test that, because that's not a rules interpretation. That is a full-on disruption to what we normally see. But it is interesting that this is because, oh, well, we don't have VAR, which VAR literally just means video assistant referee, which
Mm-hmm.
is adding another referee to the crew. So is it all moot if we're just adding it if we have VAR?
Yeah. So, and this is, we get lost in this idea sometimes where, because VAR is available in the professional sphere, that when it's not in a situation like it is in the FA Cup, then we're stuck, I think, in that mindset of referring to our VAR brain and not the 1990s brain where you're currently adjudicating the match. It's like you've got to shut off the idea of VAR. Okay, it doesn't exist. It's an unperson. It is not here. And in the not here sphere, you're going to have, and our friends at The Athletic have the still of Tammy Abraham with Villa and the 1-0 lead in the 15th minute. They've got the still up and down the line of the 18, where Abraham is behind, and his shoulder is behind two of his teammates and the last defender for Newcastle. So, yeah, okay, great. You've got the still. Okay, cool. Yes, Abraham is in behind, and yes, he eventually would score, but you have to treat it like it's the 1990s. Go back to black and white tape, whatever sphere you want to put it in, but you can't. You can backseat drive it a bit, like we've always done. Hey, this was offside. Yeah, okay, he had a bad day, but VAR's not involved, and so you're trying to conflate VAR in a situation where, Yeah, you'd like to have it, but you don't. And this is the other part in all of this. It's like you're trying to conflate all this information, throw it into one pile when one part of it is irrelevant to the conversation because it's not there. Does that make any sense?
Well, and let me just also say, shout out to the Athletic for getting us still, but that still is not taken from the exact angle of the offside line either, which again, John, as you and I have talked about in cinematography down here,
Yes.
this doesn't always line up, right? But I think again, it's a great example of there's very clearly a Villa player in an offside position, but that player is also kind of blocking the view of Tammy Abraham, and so again, okay, his shoulder is offside, which means he should be offside, but you have a defender whose foot is planted on the ground farther back than the rest of the line, and Abraham is slightly leaning over what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's tough, and unfortunately, I think this is, as you said, you have to go back to pre-VAR days and say, okay, well, in this case, which again, most matches that happen in this sport
Mm-hmm.
do not have video assistant referees or any sort of video support.
Yeah.
They are done with the naked eye.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, that's just not good enough for Premier League footballers to actually do their job correctly.
I mean, maybe it should kind of, clothe your eyes so they're not naked, and make sure that you're okay in that regard. And then there was another instance where it was, I mean, literally we could spend like 90 minutes on this match alone because you had a studs up challenge, you had the Abraham goal, you had a handball, and I'm just calling the play as it was referenced, not the result, but you had, call for handball inside the 18 where you have a player. And to me, it looked like in the Zapruder aspect of it, it looks like it hits the player in the crook of the shoulder as a part of the body spinning away. So to me, it would not have been a handball anyway. So you have a handball call, you have a studs up challenge, you have a goal that was given on what should have been an offside call. Those were the hard ones, and then you get then you end up with the moment in the 42nd, the like just before like 45 plus 2, where a keeper kind of goes out to lunch with the brain, and it was an easy one with Bizot and his moment of madness. So, I mean, Newcastle and Villa is going to be a teaching tool for a bunch of different things.
Totally, and that's again, even if you had VAR, that doesn't mean that this is less chaotic of a match. People just now would complain about VAR saying, "Oh well, that should have been a handball, but VAR got involved, and now all of a sudden they're getting too technical."
Yes.
As they sip their tea and cry about something that doesn't actually affect their life.
Pinky
So,
in
yeah. It sucks, right? Because I mean, I think that is you're allowed to say that. It sucks when the referee sees a foul or sees something that isn't actually an infraction, and they call it. Would that have saved a goalkeeper who is, I don't know, 72 yards outside of where he should have been, taking a guy out with a lot of force?
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a red card. But the handball calls are justly criticized, but who's to say they wouldn't have criticized had VAR been involved anyway?
Yes. So, easy one for Marco Bizot sending off before half. I challenge in Jacob Murphy, and yeah. So
I mean, Homeboy is. I don't know where he was or why. I do not know why he was where he was.
I mean, just it's one of them things, as the kids say. So it was all over the place. And then I want to go to Serie A for a second before we get into Yanks abroad, and I want to go to
okay
the Kalulu red. And this is where we're both going to have to stare at it because I wrote it down, and you had Serie A, the head of the Referees Association in Serie A, apologizes after giving a red to Kalulu. Juve loses in 3-2 fashion, and so he's shown a red by Federico La Pena, during the 3-2 loss to Inter. So the referee designator, Gianluca Rocci, said the match official was clearly wrong in showing Pierre Kalulu a second yellow during the loss at Inter and apologized. He was sent off after Bastoni goes to ground, and then, of course, gestures demanding a card, indicating Kalulu grabbed his shirt. Then TV footage shows that Kalulu wasn't nowhere near. Didn't grab his shirt, didn't do nothing. No contact, nothing. Juve loses 3-2 when they were down to 10, and now Inter is 8 points clear at the top. Quoting Rocci on La Penna, "We're very sorry about the incident, about La Penna's decision, which was clearly wrong, and about the fact that VAR could not be used to rectify it." Once again, going back to VAR. And he told ANSA this: "La Penna is mortified, and we are close to him, but I have to tell you the truth that he is not the only one who made a mistake, because yesterday there was clear simulation." Kalulu made the VAR gesture as he protested. League protocol prevents use of VAR in yellow card situations, including for second yellows that lead to sendings off.
Mm-hmm.
So Spalletti and Chiellini confronted La Penna in the tunnel. Quote, and Chiellini said, "Something completely unacceptable happened today. Doesn't matter whether it happens to us or someone else. And from tomorrow, presumably, VAR will have to change, because this is not acceptable that so many errors keep happening, even in big games like this." So if you look at the play, I mean, it is an air ball. I mean, it literally is an air ball when it came to Kalulu and the card being issued. That's the only way I can phrase it. That second yellow. I mean, if there was anything legitimately, it should have been a yellow for simulation. Literally, player gets touched. Bastoni gets touched, and then he goes down. Literally, it's like left hand to the sternum, fall down, go boom, and you get a second yellow to Kalulu here. It was just absolutely crazy that was called. I'm just saying.
I mean, there were 7 yellow cards issued in this match. So I will just say maybe the referee was too quick to pull that yellow card out of his pocket in this particular match.
And then, and so you had literally in the tunnel, there's video, Spalletti, Comoli, and Chiellini confronting the ref on the staircase.
Don't do that.
It is literally, you got players and the officials trying to leave, and you have, I think it was Spalletti, who was literally trying to go grill to grill with the center ref as the ref is coming down the stairs.
Don't do that. I don't know what the equivalent of a manila envelope is in Italy, but don't do that. That's how you get into trouble.
Yeah, that's how you. When it comes to simulation, I mean, I don't think it's something that it is carded enough, if that makes any sense. I think I'd like to see it done more. Why? And this is completely subjective in asking you this. Why is simulation not called as much as it should be called? Why do you think the card is in the pocket for that one as much as it is?
Well, I think the penalty is not getting the foul called.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. It does.
And so a lot of times as a referee, the other part of this is, well, do you want me to stop playing and give a yellow card to a guy after you've won the ball back and are starting your own attack?
Yeah.
So that's an element to it. The answer is you should, as the referee, you're supposed to stop play and administer misconduct if needed. But I think as much as people want it called, they may not like actually what happens when you do call it a lot. Because, again, there's also a fine line between simulation, okay, and, oh, that wasn't a foul.
Okay.
So let's bring this closer to home.
Sure.
With an example in Major League Soccer with a man who plays for a club that wears pink and maybe opening a new stadium this year.
Okay. So you're referring to the front end of the Anne Friends discussion. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can't say his name because if I do, then angry bots will come attack me and remove me from my home. Um, I'm not saying the man clearly embellishes. Let's put it
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
Embellishment is not the same as simulation. Okay.
True. Yes, and I think that's a key. I think that's a key point here.
There are times when simulation truly happens, when there is very clearly no contact, no foul whatsoever, and a dude somehow is looking like a squirrel falling from a dead squirrel falling from a tree, and
Or
he, then rolls around on the ground 72 times and somehow is gets right back up, right?
an iguana falling
But
from a
off,
tree in Central Florida during a
yeah,
freeze.
the frozen iguanas in North Florida now that are falling down out of the trees. Um, but the reality is a lot of times that our friend who has lots of other friends
Mm,
goes down a little easy.
yeah,
There is some contact,
no question.
right? And he just decides I'll take the foul. Because there's also plenty of times that he does get a little bit of contact and he says, "Oh no, I'm going to make this entire team look foolish."
Mm-hmm.
And so that is kind of the hard part for a referee is, well, yeah, he embellished, but that wasn't a foul, but he did get some level of contact. I mean, you may have a shoulder to shoulder challenge or just a nice little little hip, not even a hip check, just a hip little touch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, with less contact than the Canadians are making in their zone after the release. But that doesn't mean there's not contact,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so going down is a way to try to earn a foul. But simulation, I think, really to get a yellow card should most of us look at it as, oh, there was no way this was a foul. This is no way there was any contact. The old trope of you jumped over the player's leg, again, like a squirrel falling from a tree, hands out, legs out,
Mm-hmm.
trying to get a foul when there was no contact whatsoever. So I think the problem here is if there's a little bit of contact, it's not really simulation. It's a little bit more on the embellishment side. Now, again, the referee saying, no, that's no foul. There are things that you could say, like, oh, okay, maybe we need to have simulation here. But it's hard because simulation truly does kind of insinuate there was no potential foul there whatsoever. And
Yeah.
anytime there's a real challenge or a tackle or any sort of contact, I just don't think that you can card someone for simulation in those situations.
And I think that what you have raised is a key point going forward is the difference between embellishment and simulation. And I think that that is something that we all have to keep in mind here when we look at our definitions of what we see on the field. Embellishment, adding to a previous act. Simulation, independent of an act, trying to join two acts together, I guess is probably the best way that I can phrase the difference between the two. Yeah.
Simulation is when you say that your sibling hit you when they didn't do anything, right? Embellishment is they touched you.
Mm-hmm. I'll quit it.
And now you have just decided that, oh my gosh, this contact is equivalent to murder.
Yes.
So,
I'll quit it.
it is very.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so what I would say, and I think that this is a good time for reminding this as we head into match week 1, just remember the difference between embellishment and simulation. Because what you're also doing when you are trying to embellish, you are trying to find your limits with the man in the middle. You're trying to figure out where the line is. And then if you have a particular level of embellishment, like if you go to 11 and you're embellishing and your embellishment goes to 11 and you get the call, then you're going to try to see if you can go to 12 because that's one more than 11, which is one more than 10.
Yeah.
And then when you figure out where that line is, then you'll dial it back to 11, which is one more than 10. And so that's what we're trying to gauge here, just to remind folks, embellishment, simulation, two different things. So just when you're referencing these kinds of things in game state, just remember that those are two separate deals. Yanks abroad. And
The
Brendan
Yanks were abroad this weekend.
yeah, no doubt about that. Brendan Aaron,
To be fair, lots of Yanks abroad this weekend.
yes,
This whole week. So
yes,
we are talking about the ones playing soccer.
yes, yeah, in the Big Five league. So Brendan Aronson comes on at the half, converts his spot kick in the shootout win over Birmingham City. Plays under 52. Jedi Robinson plays a full 90 for Fulham in their win against Stoke in the FA. Benched for Fulham's last two Premier League matches. Jedi goes the full 90, and you get an almost rotated lineup for the team that lost to Manchester City. So you end up with the win. You advance in the FA Cup. In France, I still need that drop. I can't find it anywhere. Flair Balogun goes 76 minutes for Monaco and a win. Tanner Tessman goes 90 with a yellow card and a win. Mark McKenzie goes 90 for Toulouse and a loss. Tim Weah, 90 minutes with a yellow card, and he got a 4, according to L'Equipe. And L'Equipe goes 1 to 10. They go low to high. So Tim Weah gets a 4. Lacks marking as if you were expecting Godot somewhere else at the Strasbourg far post. A duel lost against the same player who caused problems on the play that led to Nanasi's goal, brought some energy, made a few fine interventions, and in front of Enciso. Also lacked composure and precision, cracking like his teammates late in the match and finishing with a yellow card at 90+9. So they were not high on Tim Weah on the week. Germany. And Germany flips theirs, which is silly. Instead of 1 to 6, low to high, the build says that 1 is the highest that you can get, and 6 is the lowest. Noah Kai Banks, middle of the road, got a 3, played 90 in a win. Christopher Lund, 90 minutes in a loss. James Sands, 69 minutes. Nice, but it was a 4-0 loss at Leverkusen. A couple of cups of coffee from Malik Tillman, Joe Scally. Paredes, Downs, and Maloney are ill. Gio Reyna, Cole Campbell injured. Timothy Chandler, Marvin Dills did not dress. Joe Scally, who had started 17 games for Gladbach this season, late sub for the second straight match. So that gets us through Germany. Weston McKennie, he ain't bad. Sets up 2 equalizers in the 3-2 loss, in the loss where we were talking about VAR. Second assist on Locatelli, tied it at 2 as Juve was a man down. And then you get the goal at 90 minutes. So Weston McKennie, if he ain't scoring, he's assisting. And according to Gazzetta dello Sport, he's asking for a new contract, doubling his current annual salary of about $3 million. Current contract runs out at the end of the year. Combined with form gives him leverage. Gazzetta referred to McKennie as a leader who carries Juve and is one of Luciano Spalletti's quote, end quote, untouchables. You like apples.
Look, 4 goals, 4 assists in Serie A this year. I think he has certainly won over the new manager. Now, the problem for Weston McKennie is it's Juventus. That manager may somehow not be there by this time next year because that's how this club operates. And that's always been his struggle at Juventus, is winning people over. Because I'm sure Nick Alifi would attest to this. There are societal factors at play when judging Weston McKennie's performance. Mainly, I think the highest crime of putting ranch on pizza, among other things.
Pineapple.
Yeah. But Weston McKennie will probably get paid very well sometime in the summer by some club. If Juve do not sign him to a contract extension or a new contract at this point, I think has to technically be, but he's going to go somewhere that will pay him very well. I think if you're a USMNT fan, you're also kind of looking at this as like, the dude's still got a lot to prove. Hopefully he has that still to prove during the World Cup this summer.
Yes.
That would be kind of cool for him to ball out at a home World Cup, leading a team, and that now playing into contract negotiations or wherever he may be looking to play next. But the dude deserves to get paid. He deserves to get paid. And the fact that Juve have toyed with him for what feels like 17 years at this point.
Yeah, really.
But every summer being, well, he's not in the project, and then he comes around and saves the season. Is that mental games with you, with Wes saying like, "Oh, we don't really need you," and he's like, "Okay, fine, I got to prove him wrong," or is it Juventus being Juventus and pretending
Mhm.
like, "Oh, well, you're not as good as you think you are because you're not Italian." Y'all tell me which nation has failed to qualify for World Cup, multiple World Cups in a row, and still has to go through qualification. Um, Not the U.S. But it is interesting how this continues to play out for West. But he's playing so well right now
Mhm.
across all competitions. Someone is going to pay him this summer. Juventus just have to decide if it's going to be them or someone else.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
if I'm Juventus, I don't want it to be someone else in Serie A.
Yeah. Yeah. Mhm. So we're keeping an eye on that. In Spain, let's see. Johnny was 63 minutes, got a yellow. Alex Freeman had a cup of coffee for Villarreal. Diego Cocan was with Barca, and they're at Girona today. Gianluca Busio got his 6th goal of the Serie B season, beating Jonathan Klinsmann. Hashtag irony alert. Venezia beating Cesena 4-0. Venezia is in the driver's seat for automatic promotion. They look like they're turning into one of those yo-yo clubs for Serie A and Serie B. And Big Pat, just as a note, 10 goals. Patrick Agyemang tied for 6th among England's second-tier leading scorers despite missing Derby's first 4 games. 4 goals and an assist in Derby's last 6. Saturday's 2-0 win over Swansea moved Derby into 6th place. So Big Pat continues. And then today, it is Haji Wright versus Aiden Morris. 3 o'clock, CBS Sports Network and Paramount Plus, Coventry and Middlesbrough. It is 1 versus 2 in the championship with Haji Wright and Aiden Morris. How about that? Haji Wright and Aiden Morris at 3 o'clock. I never thought I'd have that kind of a conversation.
uh, Both guys, well, especially Aiden Morris, seems to be doing very well for Middlesbrough. This has been. Aiden has this problem where there's a very crowded position grouping that he's in.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately for him, he's playing pretty well, right? I think we all agree with that.
Yes.
And I think everyone's locked in starter is probably a dude who's injured right now. So that does shake things up.
Mm-hmm.
But the dude directly above Aiden Morris is playing 90 minutes in Ligue 1,
Mm-hmm.
which, for those at home, is a better league than the Championship, despite what England will say. I think England thinks the Premier League, Championship, and League One are all better than like every other league in the continent, but
Wow.
they're wrong.
I'm
Um, they just do. So he just has to keep balling out. That's really what it comes down to. Play as well as you can. Um, I do think Haji is probably more of a lock for the World Cup than Aiden at this point because of his ability to play left wing plus striker. I think he is being pushed right now by Aguiman, who adds a different layer than any other striker in our pool.
Yeah.
But you also get 26 players, right? And so I am curious how he's going to use those 3 spots to include Christian Roldan and 2 other people who probably don't deserve to be there, but will get called up anyway. Because Christian Roldan is also in that camp. Sorry. Um, he has a lot to prove. If I can make a tangent, because he was playing well last year for Seattle. He
Mm-hmm.
really was. No one can deny that, and he performed decently well for the USMNT. Got his assist, which was his second assist and 50 caps for the U.S. national team, which means all of a sudden he absolutely should be a lock for the World Cup. Okay, you had a whole off season, a very long one, because Seattle's season did not end the way I think a lot of people thought / wanted it to.
Yep.
What are
True.
you gonna do when? I mean, you had this entire display
Mm-hmm.
spotlight for you via USMNT social accounts at the Super Bowl last weekend, because obviously the Seahawks were in the Super Bowl and beat the Patriots, which we all enjoy. But you got a new season coming up, and you, Christian Roldan, just as like any other MLS player, have to come out on fire because you do not have as much in the bank. You don't have as much tape in the bank this year as a lot of these other guys. And so that's a challenge for a lot of these MLSers. Miles Robinson can be one of those. All 5 of the goalkeepers who are in contention, it feels like, that play in MLS. I mean, that's essentially Matt Freese. Look, bud, I think a lot of people are questioning whether New York City is going to be good at soccer this year. I'll leave that to smarter people on this network. But if they're not, that probably means Matt Freese is going to be busy. And that can be good or bad for a goalkeeper, right? Especially when you have Matt Turner returning to New England, a team that probably should be okay this year, if not good. Who knows what Schulte and Columbus Crew will be this year? Genuinely, that is a question. There are others that possibly are making that push. All these MLS guys who have been getting a lot of time under Mauricio Pochettino because he refuses to bring in, despite what he wants to say, the top players, right? You have a lot to prove in the 2.5 months before the World Cup. And probably shorter because, decisions on rosters are probably made sometime in May. That's not a lot of time. It truly isn't, especially when you have guys who, I'll just like a Tanner Tessman, right? Or like maybe, Tanner Tessman's probably the best example. I mean, shoot, right now, Alex Freeman's a great example of a guy who's going to be playing a lot. I mean, he may not be playing week in and week out every 90 minutes, but these guys are playing for their clubs. Their clubs have been in season since the beginning of, whenever. MLS guys, starting this week, you got 2.5 months to earn that spot. Can you put enough good tape out there to overcome? I mean, Diego Luna, probably a good one too, because you've got Gio Reyna apparently is playing soccer again, sometimes more than not. That's, but you've got Brendan Aronson, who's playing really well at that same position. Malik Tillman playing consistently at that same position. So there's a lot of guys out there who need to come out on fire in MLS this I mean, really, again, 2.5 months, if that. We will see. It's going to be very curious how they are able to take advantage of the short time frame, but the great exposure that obviously they have because Mauricio Pochettino and his staff do scout MLS a lot.
All right, what's going on in SoccerForUSPod?
That's one of the topics we're going to be talking about this week. So we're going to be talking about that plus some of the other news items around U.S. soccer, but we are kind of looking at those bubble players, and it's not quite a full-on depth chart discussion we're having this week, but it is who are actually fighting for those final few spots, right? Because I think you can say there's about 15 to 18 guys that are probably, despite what Mauricio Pochettino wants to say, there are about 15 guys you go, these are the guys that are probably coming, right? Because of one reason or another. That leaves 11, that leaves about 11 spots, truly, that are up for grabs if you're getting the 26-player roster. Like, I think, that's the question. And so we're going to be looking at those guys and kind of trying to. I think the goal is to try to actually identify who has an actual shot versus it's just a dude people love to throw around, right? Because a lot of times people are like, well, I like him. Roman Celentano, maybe. Well, yeah, if he comes out guns a-blazing, hopefully not this weekend, but he's a-blazing and looks on fire. Let's be real honest. He hasn't really been part of the national team. Like all these types of factors that go into who actually has a shot. So that's what we'll be looking at this week is as we inch closer to World Cup rosters and decisions.
And once again, programming reminder, we're going to have the U17 head coach Alex Aldaz on batting leadoff tomorrow. So you can have that.
Have an Atlanta United guy who played for the U17s? Is that what happened last week?
Yeah, it's James Donaldson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Donaldson was
in his defense didn't have to do much at all, but he's,
Donaldson played.
you know,
Donaldson was in net for match day 1 and match day 3, and
yep, he got the 2 most important ones.
Mm-hmm. And we caught up with him in a hotel in St. Vincent and the Grenadines where Wi-Fi wasn't all that great, but we caught up with.
The unfortunate thing for him is he now has to come back to Atlanta from an island of the Caribbean. So thoughts and prayers to him.
Well, yeah. So James is back at the academy and letting that go. But yeah, we'll have Alex Aldaz on tomorrow morning, bat and lead off, to talk about the U17 experience and qualifying for the World Cup in Qatar in November. As always, my friend, great to see you. Thanks for walking us through everything, and we will catch up with you obviously as we roll, and we'll see you again next week.
Happy match week, everyone.
There he goes, as Bart Keeler. He is correct. Happy match week. That is absolutely true. All right. What to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it from our friends at Fanatis. FNTZ.co/soccer down here. That link is important. Helps them, helps us, and helps you by adding more matches to everything you're already watching with Fanatis. You get BN, you get all the BNs. And I mean all the BNs. And you get the home of AFCON with that. You get TAC, matches from Argentina, a lot of leagues from across South America. You get Liga 1 Max Pro. You get Colombia. You get Paraguay. You get Uruguay. You get Argentina, Copa Argentina, all in one place, one subscription, one home, FNTZ.co/soccer down here. We mentioned most of it for today. It is CBS Sports Network, once again, Coventry City and Middlesbrough at 3 o'clock. BN en Español. It is the Ekstraklasa, the Polish league, which you can get on the BNs. You can get that, and the French league and the Turkish league. And right now in the Ekstraklasa, just so you know, and I don't know if this means that the league is, highly competitive or that it's just kind of average. Because, by the way, and apparently they're saying that's interesting. So they're saying Nicheka and Gornik Zabrze is at 1 o'clock, where I have. Okay. So it's all right. So it's Termalichka, who's at the bottom of the table, hosting Gornik Zabrze, and that is at 1 o'clock. So it's not Nicheja. It is Termalichka, the team at the bottom. I don't know where they thought Nicheja was playing in this one, but anyway, Termalichka at the bottom of the table. They are the dog at a plus 241. Gornik Zabrze is a plus 102. Standings, and this is what I was getting at right now. And you still have teams that haven't quite completed match week 21. Top to bottom, separated by 16 points. Literally 1 through 18, 16 points separating, and Legia Warsaw is still in the relegation zone. Win in one of the games from Picks of the Week from Soccer Over There for Vidjev Luj, and that got them out of the relegation zone over Wisla Plock, who's coming back to earth. They've lost their last 2. They were ahead in the table over Jagiellonia Bialystok, but Wisla Plock has lost 2 in a row. So that pick in Picks of the Week went to Vidjev Luj, and they are now out of the relegation zone. But top to bottom, in the Polish league, 16 points. 18 teams, 16 points. Like I said, I don't know if that means that everybody's that competitive across the board and they're all that good, or they're just not all that good. So that's open for debate. But anyway, BNB in Espanol, 1 o'clock, Termalichka and Gornik Zabrze in the Polish league. And ESPN2 has Girona and Barcelona at 3 o'clock. That's also on the Plus and on Deportes. And Paramount Plus has Coventry City and Middlesbrough, and they also have Cagliari and Lecce at 2:45. So pretty quick day. It's a Monday, and you're kind of getting back into the swing of things here at the beginning of the week. Once again, what to watch, where to watch it, how to watch it. Brought to us by our friends at Fanatis. FNTZ.co/soccer down here. Once again, that link's important. It helps them, helps us, helps you by adding more matches to everything you're already watching. You get Fanatis, CDO, Nuestra Tele for the fans, TVV if you want to add Venezuelan Winter League Winter League baseball. That's a separate package that you can get. Libertadores, Sudamericana, you can get all of those on Fanatis as well. Once again, you get AFCON, you get all the BNs, CATV, Tigo Sports, Liga 1 Max Pro, Argentina, a lot of the leagues in South America, all in one place. One subscription, one home. Fanatis, fntz.co/soccer down here. Now, over at soccerdownhere.net this week, and we started last week and we're continuing this week. It's our 10 lists with Atlanta United getting into the swing of things here in year number 10 of their existence, and it's season number 10 for us. And so what we've done over the last week is we have done some 10 lists, and it's not like best ofs or anything, but it is there are 10 lists, and it's like defining moments and things like that when it comes to all of the stuff that's going on with the club in and of itself. So, cult legends, Jarrett pieced this one together for us. And so Atlanta United at 10. Cult legends as a part of the list. Yamil Assad, Chris McCann, Franco Escobar. Everybody remembers playoff Franco. It was Justin Miram, Brandon Vasquez, who is Open Cup hero Brandon Vasquez, Eric Remedi, Anton Walks, Bienvenu Kanekimata. 10 of those cult heroes that were attached. And so that's what we're doing here when it comes to the Atlanta United at 10 series. And so it's been fun to piece that one together. And there's that one that's a part of the list. And then you have, let's see, you had 10 defining goals, 10 defining homegrown moments. Jackson Conway against Club America, George Bello in his second start, Caleb Wiley-Sale, Jay Fortune with his goal against Charlotte, George Campbell against Orlando, Tyler Wolff against Red Bulls, Machop Chol coming home, signing the homegrown deal, Matt Edwards getting the first team deal, Efren Morales, DCQ. You know, those kinds of things we're doing. We did them last week, and we got to the halfway point. We're going to be doing them this week too. So go to soccerdownhere.net. And when you go into the read section, you'll see all the stories that we have going on a daily basis. Included in that are the Atlanta United at 10 lists that we have and that we've been building independently of everything. So go in and look at those Atlanta United at 10 lists. It's been kind of fun to piece those together, and let us know what you think about those as well. Taking the quick tour, FC Dallas, remember adding Uruguayan midfielder Joaquin Valiente from Defensor. It's a long-term deal, 27-28, multiple club options, 5+6 in 48 appearances last year, coming off a loan at Barcelona SC. Helped Defensor win back-to-back Copa Uruguay. We mentioned what's going on with Kyle Duncan, picking him up in free agency. Minnesota United, Reed Baker Whiting in the cash deal with Nashville. And it was and so we'll keep an eye on all of these MLS-y kind of moves as we get ready for match day one. Chivas beat Club America in the Clásico Nacional over the weekend. It was chaos. No real shock, especially at the last 15, 20 minutes as Club America is trying to get the equalizer. It's must-see TV when those two teams combine, and it was a fun watch after we were finished with Creek Cup over at Johns Creek on the weekend. Literally raced home, got to see a bit of the first half and the second half of Clásico Nacional. Cruz also beat Tigres, and we mentioned Igor Tudor and Vitor Pereira. Godspeed, Vitor Pereira. Wrexham, with their win over Ipswich, they won at the racecourse ground 1-0, so they advance. I think we're supposed to have the FA Cup draw today, and let me see if I can find out when that is. So hang on just a second. So I thought it was supposed to be later today. I'm not sure. And where is it? It was a busy weekend in Scotland, too. We'll get Jarrett to talk about that tonight on SOT. And, okay, so nothing is posted as of yet on the draw in and of itself. So let me see if or when it is supposed to be. I'm guessing after tonight. But I thought, or maybe it's halftime of Macclesfield and Brentford. I think that's traditionally when they do it. And round of 16 draw, let's see, 6:35. So, yeah, 12:30. 5 5 hours. So 5 hours behind GMT. So 1:35 is when the draw is supposed to be involving the FA Cup draw. So we'll see what it looks like with round of 16 at 1:35 this afternoon. So we'll get you the info there. Looks like, let's see, Lens is chasing after PSG. Lyon keep winning. They beat Nice. Leipzig had a 2-2 draw with Wolfsburg. Harry Kane now has 500 goals in his career. Rayo Vallecano. This was crazy. Rayo Vallecano just smashed ATLUTD 3-0, and you had supporter protests against owner Raul Martin Preza, but they wanted him to leave. The fans were shouting after each goal. They wanted Preza out, but it was a big win for Rayo Vallecano, which was crazy to see that go down. River Plate, once again, their form as they're getting ready for Copa Argentina against Ciudad de Bolivar. You're wondering what it's going to look like for them. Boca Juniors, they couldn't beat Platense. Rosario Central beat Baracas Central. And it was Copetti and Angel Di Maria winning the 2 goals there for Rosario Central. Nacional over Cerro Porteño, Deportivo Cali over Atlético Nacional, and busy week across the board in South America as well. So, got to keep an eye on that. Can't thank everybody enough at Northview and at Johns Creek for Creek Cup. It was great. Calling all those matches, Maddie, Jason, Drew, and myself over a 3-day period. Drew and I was anchored at Northview. Drew came in and helped out. Drew was over at Johns Creek for the busy 5 final Saturday. Maddie and Jason had most of the yeoman's work over there. But no, it was great to be able to call those matches and get our high school season up and running. It was, it is. They're looking for like maybe a team or two, and we're going to have Kelly Bowler, the men's head coach from Johns Creek, on Red Clay in the noon hour on Wednesday to break down the tournament, what he learned, and maybe give him a couple of ideas for teams because they're still looking for a couple. So we'll see what it looks like when it comes to vacancies for Creek Cup for 27. He's already planning that. We'll get into that too. Brian Lawson from Jeff Davis on before him, and it is Dusty Jeanette, the head coach. GMC Prep will be on bat and leadoff on Wednesday on Red Clay. So we've got that to look forward to as well. So let's see, FA Cup and all of the stuff involving that. I'm trying to see if I've missed anything. Let's get into gossip, rumor, and innuendo, and then we'll see if we missed anything before we're on our way out the door. Real Madrid's Victor Valdepeñas, Arsenal's looking at him, reported by AS. Keep an eye on that for the 19-year-old. AC Milan, and also the Bundesliga chasing after him. Chelsea and Spurs interested in signing Bayern Munich center back Kim Min-jae. Have him on their short lists, according to Bild's Christian Falk. It would depend on who their next manager is, obviously. But the Blues, have good options in defense, but they want to add to Liam Rosenier's squad after missing out on Jeremy Jacquet. Kim likes it at Bayern, but right now he's third choice behind Upamecano and Jonathan Tah. Also, it is Juve once again. They want to speed up the process of renewing Weston McKennie's deal. We talked about him wanting twice as much. It is Abby, thank you very much. I'm going to deal with AT&T. Fantastic. Yay. Chelsea and Liverpool have put in the most groundwork for a possible move to sign Murillo from Nottingham Forest. Chelsea are listening to offers for Adarabioyo, Badiashile, and Trevor Chalobah. There is uncertainty around the futures of Konate and Joe Gomez at Liverpool. Keep an eye on Arsenal, Manchester United, and Spurs, and Murillo. Bayern Munich closely following Jan Diomande from RB Leipzig, and they are going to stay informed on the situation. Vincent Kompany likes him, according to Fabrizio Romano. Still competition to sign him. PSG is monitoring. Manchester United and Spurs are also monitoring as well. Other stuff to add to the rumor bin. AC Milan are open to offers, according to Caught Offside, on Christian Pulisic. Spurs, Arsenal, Manchester, in the neighborhood of 80 million euro. Scott McTominay's priority is to stay at Napoli, according to Nicola Shira. Man, it's just amazing what happens when you get real tomatoes on your food. Contract extension progressing. Manchester City plotting a £70 million summer move for Morgan Gibbs-White from Forest. Interest from Spurs. Arsenal sent a scout to monitor Pio Esposito in Inter's 3-2 win over Juve. Spurs, West Ham, Crystal Palace. They've all initiated discussions involving Antonio Rudiger at Real Madrid. Chelsea, City, Newcastle, Bayern, Dortmund, Leipzig. Chasing after Barcelona for their 18-year-old and Barcelona, chasing after 18-year-old FC Twente center Ruud Nijstad. Ivan Toney has refused to rule out or move back to the Premier League, turned down January offers in favor of staying in Saudi. Barcelona cadet Marc Casado leave as the midfielder is a victim of competition, in quotes, at the club. And then the note on Fafa Pico that was made by Tom Bogert. So keep an eye on this Fafa Pico possible transaction. So we've got to keep an eye on that. Let me see if there's anything else. Let me see if there is an update on it, actually. And we will see what it looks like here. All right. So now that the 280 character app is all right. So checking to see if there is any latest. Once again, this time yesterday was when it was floated out into the ethers. Let's see. Let's see. I think everyone seems to be racing back to the initial reports from Bogert. And I don't want the ad because I'm trying to, let's see, hopes to have more playing time. And this was yesterday around dinner. Diario Olé is saying that, once again, that they are looking at, and they're anticipatory in their verb tense. Diario Olé is when it comes to Fafa Pico. Hopes they have more playing time, finish the playoffs as a sub. And so that's really the latest on that. So no movement for movement's sake, but it looks like it's heading in this direction. So Caleb Jephthah, and he is reporting that as well, and everything is circling back to Bogert. So everything's circling back to Bogert. And yeah, so it is referencing that one report and no advancement from there. So that's kind of where we are with the Fafa Pico sweepstakes. So we'll keep you posted on that. And thanks to all of you on a Monday. So it was interesting on the weekend. Once again, with what we had with Creek Cup, can't thank them enough for being a part of everything. And we're gassed up and getting ready for the regular season. It's strange. It's crazy to think that we are getting ready for the 2026 season. We've made it out the other side, and that's where we are. So we're getting ready for everything. This week, we're going to be looking at team previews in and around Major League Soccer. We're going to be looking at a lot of different teams because we're based here, we're going to look at a lot of different folks because Atlanta United is going to be playing folks in the Eastern Conference one way or the other. And so we're going to try and cover as many folks as we can coming up this week in particular. So once again, rundown tomorrow. Bat and lead off, it's Alex Aldaz, the head coach of the U17s. And we're going to hear from him about that experience and what it means to have this team qualify for the U17 World Cup in Qatar. So he's batting leadoff tomorrow. The return of Casey White. She's coming at 10 o'clock. She'll be that'll be her time slot this season. She'll be at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. So we'll have Casey D coming back, and we'll find out about her offseason. She got a lot of travel time with Dad. She got over to England, saw a lot of matches. We'll find out about that. We'll find out why coaching is hard. I still have my notes. Will Pelagic is going to be on the show on Wednesday. Jess Sharman is going to be batting leadoff on Wednesday. Then try and track down the busiest man in the Northeast, Dylan Butler. That's Wednesday. Red Clay lunch is back. That's a Wednesday at noon. Thursday, we get to find out what's up with the Atlanta amputee. The Atlanta amputee award that was presented by U.S. Soccer. And that was really cool when it came to seeing that news because we've been able to tell the story for Atlanta Amputee Soccer as they have won the Adapt and Thrive Disability Award celebrating accessibility and inclusion. And so we're going to be catching up with them, and it's going to be really cool to find out all about that. And it's going to be really cool to catch up with them before we get into the Power Hour on Thursday with Nino and Nico. So it's Atlanta Amputee Soccer, 9:30 Thursday. Then the Power Hour at 10 and 10:30. 11 o'clock's the Show of Chaos, and that's how. And then Friday's the Show of Chaos, and this is how we like to kind of start things to get everybody ready for the year. Our friends from Apple TV, and I don't know which ones. I don't know which ones yet. It's up to our buddy Kirk Reynolds at MLS Soccer. He's lining up the grid. I don't know who it is. He just kind of tells me, and we go from there. So we'll find out what the grid is Friday morning, starting to show up from the beginning, 10 or 15 minutes each. The one condition is that if you're in the board, you can't leave until you ask the person who comes in behind you a question. So you have to have a question ready for the person coming in to sub in for you. That's the only parameter. But we're going to have our friends from Apple TV in all show Friday, 9:05 until 11:15 probably. So all of our friends from Apple TV are going to be here on Friday, and we're going to find out what's on their mind as they get ready for the 25 season. So we're stacked, and it's going to be fun. And thanks to all of you guys for coming by and hanging out with us. Thanks to Bart Keeler and the SoccerForUSPod. Thanks to Abe Gordon, 92.9 The Game. Remember, tonight it is soccer over there. Also, remember tomorrow, special edition of Atlanta Soccer Tonight. 2 hours previewing everything involving Atlanta United. Me, Maddie, Abe, Jason, Mike. More probably, but I don't know who. But it's going to be the cast of thousands for that tomorrow night live, 92.9 The Game, and the Odyssey app as well. So it's going to be a busy week for all of us. It's going to be a fun week for all of us. We've got high school action, St. Pius and Brookwood Wednesday, Dalton and Johnson Gainesville boys on Friday, since it is an off week for some school systems here in the state of Georgia. So busy week on the high schools, busy week for Atlanta United, busy week for Major League Soccer, busy week for all of us. We can't thank you guys enough for hanging out with us here, as you always do on the morning show. So thanks to Abby, thanks to Michael, thanks to Alex, thanks to Ricky. I'm trying to think who else. Thanks to 130 or 13-0. Morning Lokeville. Lokeville wants to know anticipated starting lineup. No idea. And if you look at it in a 4-2-3-1, something along the lines of maybe Jaden Hibbert and net, it would be maybe Pedro Amador. Then you're looking at probably an Amy High, Stian Gregerson, and Tomas Jakob at right back. 2 6s might be Alzate and Tristan Muyumba. Jakob might be a midfielder. It might be Ronald Hernandez at right back. Don't know. Then if you go 3 attackers, it would be some combination of Alexi and Miggy, yes. Then the question would be at left wing. And then up top would be Latte Lot. So think of it as a 4-2-3-1 local with some questions. And it might be situational to start things out too, because you're going up against Cincinnati, and it might be, something that evolves into a 5-3-2, 3-5-2. Alzate drops back and becomes that third center back. Don't know. But look at it a 4-2-3-1. We do have questions. And we'll see if when Maddie and Jason go up to the Children's Healthcare of Atlanta training ground this week, if they get any answers, if they get any vibes. But remember, Atlanta Soccer tonight, 92.9 The Game, tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. And soccer over there is tonight at 8 o'clock. All right, so morning Lokeville. Abby, let me see one more time. I'm going to say hi and bye to everybody. And morning Michael Head, morning Four Card, and morning Will. And let's see. I know that Alex is in here. Morning, Ricky. And let's see. Morning, Will. And did I miss anybody? I don't think I did. I got 130 or 13-0, whichever one that is. I don't know what that font is. And that's why I'm saying it's either 13-0 MR or 130 MR. 130 Mr. Let's see. So there's Michael. There's 130. And Abe traditionally goes 130, he goes 9:15. He'll come in like 9:10. Abe is traditionally batting leadoff for the week. So if there's any questions, it's always Abe batting leadoff. Maddie will be in at 9:30, and Bart will be in at 10. So that's kind of how we break everything down. Let's see. So Abby, Ricky, Alex, and don't forget to sign back up for the Chant app and renew everything there for the 2026 season. Thanks to all of y'all for hanging out with us. And that's going to do it for today. Back at it again, 8 o'clock tonight, soccer over there. Back at it again here, 9:05 in the morning. Alex Aldaz from the U17s on the national side. KCD, where'd she be? She'd be at 10 o'clock. So for everybody here at SDH, it's match week, everybody. Enjoy it. We're going to have fun. It's going to be a heck of a year. We're going to cover it for you all here, Major League Soccer, and everything right here on the SDH Network and SDH AM and Morning Espresso. Thanks to our friends at Woolthorpe University. Much Platiel, play it safe. See you tonight. Soccer over there. That's a Monday.